evening, let's explore an excerpt from Gyatso's Song of Enlightenment, and then let's meditate. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is brought to you by the good-hearted folks who help support this channel on Patreon. This evening, we could chant and meditate and enjoy a lesson or two, but first, if you love Star Wars and you wish to meditate as profoundly as Ahsoka Tano on Lothal, be sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell. Good news! If at any point during this evening's live stream you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation or Buddhist philosophy or how to apply them to your life, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window on the right-hand side of the screen. Please, oopsie, I forgot to put the chanting marks in. Dreadfully sorry. Let's see. Okay, let's chant. The Buddhist doctrine of directness is not a matter of human emotion. If you doubt this or feel uncertain, then you must discuss it with me. 2 points. Number 1. This is not a question of faith. Anybody who tells you that it is has missed the boat. Allow me to elucidate. There's a Scrabble answer for you. I'm going to hit button 5. There are 2 types of teachers. The majority tend to be rigid, fearful, controlling, elitist, competitive, and cruel. The minority, sadly it's the minority, tend to be flexible, loving, laid-back, egalitarian, cooperative, and kind. The people who are the most rigid, the most fearful, the most controlling are all about faith and belief. Why is that? Because by its very definition, belief is an act of emotional and intellectual and physical rigidity. And the thing is, in the short term, that might be productive, but in the long term, any form of rigidity does more harm than good. And additionally, the football coach of the Green Bay Packers, Vince Lombardi, is famous for saying, "Fear makes cowards of us all." When there is sufficient fatigue, faith wavers because it is a rigidity. In Buddhism, when Buddhism is taught and practiced properly, it does not depend on faith. It depends on the lowest, literally the lowest part of the central nervous system, the spinal cord itself. The thoracic region of the spinal cord is the home or the seat of the sympathetic nervous system, the seat of mindfulness. Both the lumbar region and the cervical regions together as a team are the seat of the parasympathetic nervous system, the seat of meditation, the seat of physical relaxation and mental release. Unless you've been endured a catastrophic central nervous system injury, which could quite possibly be fatal, you are still capable of practicing mindfulness and meditation regardless of your physical state or your emotional state. This is huge. I say this often so that people get the idea that anyone can do this. I have a shit ton of disabilities, including a metric buttload of brain damage, including, but not limited to, dysautonomia, ADHD, and autism. The final two are subject to what they call meltdowns or psychotic outbursts. So I've spent my life trying not to be a beat-faced monster, relying on belief or suggestion or affirmation was woefully inadequate, but relying on the most fundamental facet of my central nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, has been profoundly effective. I have had great success using these techniques on myself as a guinea pig and on the students who have worked with me with enthusiasm. This stuff, well, to borrow a phrase from our friends in AA, it works if you work it, so work it. Having said that, having ranted and raved, I turn my attention now, hopefully yours as well, back to the text. The Buddha's doctrine of directness is not a matter of human emotion. But what do we mean by directness? Directly perceiving the external and the internal, the physical and the mental, the pleasurable and the painful, the interesting and the boring, the glorious and the grotesque. Directly experiencing our perceptions of sights and sounds and sensations, flavors, scents, and the like, including emotion, intention, thought, memory, and imagination. Whatever we're experiencing, we can directly perceive it and make peace with it through physical relaxation, which acts as a carrier wave for mental release. And we'll get more into that in just a few minutes. Bear with me. What I really love about the author of this text is that he didn't say, just trust me. He said to those reading this text, if you don't agree with me, if you don't understand this, come to me. Discuss it with me. Which reminds me of a phrase we see written in the Hebrew Old Testament, come, let us reason. What's the word I'm looking for? It begins with the consonant P. Not pedantic. Petulant. A petulant potentate will demand blind trust and take any confusion or doubt personally. The wise are happy to work with the good-hearted. I'm turning my attention now to an excerpt, a very poorly paraphrased excerpt from the Christian New Testament. I can if you believe. Lord, I believe, help my disbelief. According to the synoptic Gospels, when a man whose daughter was gravely ill spoke those words to the Christ did not punish him, but healed his daughter, inferring that vulnerability triumphs sanctimonious deceit. Perhaps you've heard this. Philosophy is looking for a black cat in a dark room with no lights on. Faith is looking for a black cat in a dark room with no lights on and proclaiming, I found it, when you haven't. Science is looking for a black cat in a black room with a candle. So sanctimonious deceit would be saying, would be lying to ourselves about what we feel, about what we believe. I know I was taught to do that for many years, and it did much more harm than good. So bringing this back down to 6th century China, the author of this text is saying, if you don't understand this, or you don't agree with me, that's fine. If you want my help to take your practice to the next level, meet with me. I'll be glad to help you as best I can. Which is just chef's kiss. Beautiful. We turn our attention now to tonight's practice text, or sadhana, if you fancy. So let's begin by training our neural pathways responsible for both empathy and enthusiasm simply by chanting the following quatrain. Together. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hatred, craving, and clinging by relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hatred, craving, and clinging by relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging by relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. Oh. All right. And so we come now to mindfulness and meditation, which as a team are known as many things, such as Zen or Chan or Dhyana or Mahamudra or Ati Yoga. And if you prefer Tibetan, they are often described as Dzogchen or Trekcho, which in turn can be translated as Great Perfection Phase Tantra or simply the Slice Through. Despite the grandiosity of their names, the technique is very, very simple. Not always comfortable, but simple. So let's look at it through three lenses. Through the lens of the body, simply allowing your posture to emulate that depicted in this photograph of a Buddha statue. Notice the legs are not in the full lotus posture. There's no strain placed on the knees. The release comes from the hip sockets. The spine is enjoying a degree of traction between the pelvis and the head. A gentle Mona Lisa-like smile dances upon the corners of the mouth, the apples of the cheeks, and the crow's feet of the eyes. The tip of the tongue is placed gently upon the roof of the mouth. When it comes to breath, we want our inhalation to be relatively shorter and sharper. When it comes to exhalation, we want our out breath to be comparatively longer and softer. Now let's look at this through the lens of mind. Physically, silently, as we breathe in, we recite the demonstrative pronoun this. So this doesn't refer to a person, it refers to an object. And demonstrative pronouns are ridiculously vague, and that's ideal. Instead of going through our mental thesaurus looking for the perfect label, only label we need is the word this. Describe your location. Here. Describe the time. Now. Who's the ideal student? This one. Who's the ideal teacher? This one. Who are their ideal companions? These ones. That's an old trick from Tibet, translated for our convenience. Every time we breathe in, we are wired to automatically access our sympathetic nervous system, which has evolved not for active concentration, but for mindfulness, to simply notice. To notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and you guessed it, randomly. And like I mentioned a few moments ago, we are wired to notice sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like, including emotion, intention, thought, memory, and imagination. We could notice the external or the internal, the physical or the mental, the pleasurable or the painful, the interesting or the boring, the glorious or the grotesque. What do we do with all this stuff that we notice? Every time we exhale, we silently and mentally recite the 3-syllable verb, relaxing. Each inhalation is wired to the involuntary, to us, in such a manner to enable us to automatically access our parasympathetic nervous system, which has evolved to both physically relax as well as mentally release. This is the key to sanity. While the Christians are praying, "Oh God, give me the patience, the wisdom to know the difference," the courage to change what I can change, the patience to accept that which I cannot change, and the wisdom to know the difference. The Buddhists who really get it, are just simply, whatever I perceive, may I release. Now, you could say, and rightfully so, hey, am I being told to be a doormat, to be a boot scrape, which in the days of horseback transportation was a smelly proposition? No, because the great irony is this: the more we practice this meditation every 12 hours, whether it's for 5 minutes or 55 minutes, the more you do it, the more you'll find yourself free from the two extremes of controlling tendencies and being batshit scattered. And you'll find yourself in the middle ground of centered spontaneity. And from this place of centered spontaneity, our choices and our utterances and our deeds can flow in a manner described by the translators as expedient means. This path empowers us to go with the flow. Will the choices, utterances, and deeds we perform while going through the flow always be popular? No. In the short term, will they always seem like the best? No. But doing so, cultivating the flow and going with the flow, non-neurotically, peacefully, is the key to a love that is spontaneous, uncontrived, and dynamic. I do not see any questions at the moment, so I'm going to assume you all have understood my blathering. Let's meditate. Oh yes, one last thing. On the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, we read first collection of 16 sets of 16 rounds. What does that mean? Glad you asked. Many years ago, I hung out with a Bengali gentleman who counted upon the creases of his fingers, including their tips, it inspired this technique. Did you know you can count to 16 on just 4 fingers and 1 thumb? Back in junior high, I was introduced to the wonderful world of bodybuilding and to the idea of repetitions and sets. Here in meditation, we replace the word repetition with round. A round consists of 1 inhalation and 1 exhalation. During each inhalation, we advance our left thumb. Over the course of 16 breaths, we could count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Now you know how to count to 16, but that only takes a minute or two. So what if you want to count for 30 or so minutes? Well, then you'll need about 16 sets of these 16 rounds. Enter the dragon. Enter our right hand. We recount the first set of 16 rounds, the second set of 16 rounds, and so forth and so on. Now, is this everybody's cup of tea? No. Some people prefer a timer. Some people like to count time using incense. Some will actually count beads when they meditate. I've done every type of timing. I found this to be the most useful, but I can't tell you what to do. Or in the words of Morpheus, I cannot... I'm going to have to paraphrase it. I can only show you the door. You have to walk through. Let's see. Let's tap button 9 and dig in. No, this will not turn pain into bliss, but it'll help you make peace with pain. Simply meditating while world leaders do nothing to fix climate change, and in many cases sign legislation that could result in its exacerbation, this will not necessarily pull their heads, their collective heads, out of the warm, dark place they've been keeping their heads. But this can help you to be peaceful, to be accepting, and to receive the centered spontaneity that can make us part of the solution rather than the problem. If you've just joined, welcome aboard. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation or Buddhist philosophy or how to apply them, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window on the right-hand side of the screen. In the meantime, as you breathe in, silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this. And with each exhalation, silently and mentally recite the 3-syllable verb, relaxing. Although it can be helpful for your posture to emulate that, as described in the diagram on the screen, there's no need for you to be butt naked and hairless like Mr. Clean at a nudist colony. Did you know that noticing and relaxing are the key to a love that is spontaneous and uncontrived? Welcome aboard. If you've just joined us, allow me to reassure you that the moment you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation or Buddhist philosophy or how to apply it to your life, all you gotta do is type your question in great detail in the chat window on the right-hand side of the screen. Until then, as you breathe in, please Silently and mentally recite the pronoun this. As you exhale, please silently and mentally recite the 3-syllable verb relaxing. Settle down and enjoy the ride. I should say, sit back and enjoy the ride. But then you'd fall off your meditation cushion, wiggle funny, and scare the dog. And we can't have that. let's seal our practice with a bit of the old wishing love. May everyone be free from suffering. May everyone be happy. In fact, let's change this to misery. Misery, okay. May everyone be free from misery. May everyone be happy. May no one be separated from the happiness. May everyone have balance from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging, freed. If you feel that I have earned it, you could type something in the chat window. You could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could share it with a friend. You could even help support this channel on Patreon. In approximately 11 hours, I intend to return to lead tomorrow's early morning meditation. Until then, may you and yours be happy and healthy. And if you are as geeky as me, this is the way.